In the dark, damp cell of a hidden Catholic press in the Whitefriars district of London, John Hayham, a printer and bookseller, worked tirelessly to produce texts that could be dangerous to possess. The year was 1609, and England was a land of fear and suspicion for those who clung to the old faith. The Reformation had turned the country upside down, and the once powerful Catholic Church was now a shadow of its former self. Hayham knew the risks well. He had already been imprisoned and his press destroyed. But he was determined to bring comfort and hope to the exiled English Catholics who had fled to the Low Countries, particularly the nuns living in Louvain. One of these nuns, a woman whose name is lost to history, was the intended recipient of a special book. It was a translation of the life of Saint Catherine of Siena, a mystic and doctor of the Church who had lived in the 14th century. The translator, John Fenn, was a Jesuit priest and chaplain to the Augustinian canonesses of St. Monica's in Louvain. Fenn's younger brother, James, had been martyred for his faith in 1574, a stark reminder of the dangers they faced. Fenn's life had been a series of losses and gains. Under Queen Mary Tudor, he had been a fellow at New College, Oxford, and the master of a school in Bury St. Edmunds. But when Elizabeth I came to the throne, Fenn, like many other Catholics, lost his positions and was forced to flee. He became a prolific writer and translator, producing texts that were essential for the recusant community, including the Acts of the English Martyrs, a powerful and political work that celebrated the sacrifices of those who had died for their faith. In 1609, Fenn began his translation of Raymond of Capua's legend, the Major of Catherine of Siena. Unlike the earlier version by Wynkyn de Worde, which was based on a Latin text, Fenn's translation was from the Italian. This was significant because the Italian version, by Lancelotto de Politi, had been written with a clear anti-Lutheran agenda, linking Catherine's story to the defense of Catholic orthodoxy. The title of Fenn's book, The Life of the Blessed Virgin, Saint Catherine of Siena, was a clear indication of its purpose. It was not just a translation. It was a message to the English nuns in Louvain, a reminder that they were not alone in their struggle. The book began with a dedicatory address from Hayham, the printer, to an unnamed female reader. Hayham's words were a balm to the reader's soul, acknowledging her pain and offering a glimmer of hope. "Madame, it is now long since that my heart hath had, not only a very inward compassion of your miseries, but also a very earnest desire to present unto you some godly treatise, which might both be consolatory unto you amidst your discomforts, and a pattern for your conformity unto the life of Christ." Hayham's preface was a call to resilience. He compared the reader's suffering to the watering of a tree, a necessary process that would eventually bear fruit. He invoked the story of Job, encouraging her to find strength in her trials, and to trust that her sacrifices would be rewarded in the afterlife. Catherine of Siena's life was a fitting example for the nuns. She had not been persecuted or martyred, but she had faced opposition from her own family. When her parents assigned her the most menial tasks in the household, Catherine turned her labor into a form of worship. She imagined her father as Christ, her mother as the Virgin Mary, and her siblings as the apostles. The kitchen, she believed, was the innermost sanctuary of the temple, where she offered her service to God. Fenn's translation included detailed accounts of Catherine's ascetic practices, which were omitted from the earlier de Worde edition. These descriptions of self-imposed suffering, such as beating herself with an iron chain, were meant to resonate with a readership that had witnessed the brutal martyrdoms of the Reformation. The extreme physical penance Catherine endured was a reminder that suffering, even if self-inflicted, could be a path to spiritual growth and a way to intercede for the sins of others. One of the most significant sections of the book was Catherine's prophecy about the future of the Church. She foretold the schism that would occur, with the papacy returning from Avignon to Rome. This prophecy was particularly relevant to the English Catholics, who had seen their own church torn apart by the Reformation. Catherine's words offered a promise of restoration, a future where the Church would be purged of its sins and restored to its former glory. "Almighty God hath determined thus to purge his Church by calamities and tribulations, the which when he hath once done, he will raise up a new spirit in his chosen servants, and send such godly pastors and curates over his flock, that my heart rejoiceth within my body to think upon that goodly reformation, that shall ensue in all states of men." For the English nuns, this was a message of hope. They were not just exiles. They were part of a larger struggle for the soul of the Church. Catherine's predictions and her own example of perseverance in the face of adversity provided a blueprint for their own lives. They were not alone in their suffering, and they could take comfort in the knowledge that their sacrifices were not in vain. Catherine's influence extended beyond the nuns. Jesuit writers such as Fulvio Andrazi, Etienne Bennett, Girolamo Piety, and John Sweetnam often invoked her in their works. They saw her as a model of meditation and a symbol of the Church's resilience. Andrazi praised her for conforming her will to God's, while Bennett wrote of her choice to suffer purgatorial pains on earth. Piety reflected on her teachings about discerning the spirits, and Sweetnam saw her as a guide for sinners seeking redemption. In the hands of these writers, Catherine of Siena became a central figure in the spiritual life of English Catholics. Though she had never set foot in England, her teachings and her example of unwavering faith had made an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of those who continued to fight for their beliefs, even as the world around them changed beyond recognition. John Foxe, the renowned Protestant reformer, played a significant role in shaping the English Protestant identity through his influential work, Acts and Monuments, also known as the Book of Martyrs. This book, which went through several editions in the 16th century, not only provided a detailed history of the Church, but also rewrote English history to support the Protestant cause. Foxe's work was a powerful tool in establishing a sense of continuity between the past and the present, linking the Lollards to the Reformation and beyond. One of the most notable aspects of Acts and Monuments is Foxe's treatment of historical figures, particularly saints. He reinterpreted their stories to align with Protestant ideology. For example, he reimagined Thomas Becket, a revered English martyr, as a figure whose miracles were fabricated by the clergy to manipulate the faithful. Similarly, John Wycliffe, once considered a heretic, was elevated to a precursor of the Reformation and a source of national pride. Foxe's treatment of Catherine of Siena and Bridget of Sweden is particularly intriguing. These two saints, though not English, held a significant place in English devotion. Bridget of Sweden, associated with the influential Sion Abbey, was known for her harsh criticisms of the papacy. Foxe cleverly used her words to undermine the authority of the Catholic Church. If readers were devoted to Bridget, they had to accept her harsh critiques, which Foxe presented as a validation of the Protestant cause. Catherine of Siena, a Dominican mystic, was given even more space in Acts and Monuments. Foxe reinterpreted her prophecies and writings to align with the Protestant Reformation. Catherine, who had called for reform within the Church and obedience to the Pope, was portrayed as a prophet of the Protestant movement. Foxe's version of Catherine's prophecies suggested that the deformed and ragged Church would be reformed and purified, a clear reference to the changes brought about by the Reformation. Foxe's approach was strategic. He acknowledged the authority of these saints, while simultaneously using their words to challenge the very foundations of Catholicism. This duality allowed him to appeal to both those who still venerated these saints and those who were skeptical of Catholic traditions. By doing so, Foxe reinforced the idea that the Reformation was not only a necessary step, but also a fulfillment of divine prophecy. However, Foxe's use of Catherine and Bridget also highlighted the deep roots of Catholic devotion in England. Despite the Reformation's efforts to erase Catholic practices, the images and stories of these saints persisted. For example, the rood screen at St. Andrew and the Blessed Virgin in Norfolk, which once featured images of Bridget and Catherine, showed the resilience of Catholic iconography. Even though Catherine's image was defaced, her presence remained a testament to her enduring influence. The persistence of Catherine's legacy in England is further evidenced by her inclusion in the libraries of prominent Protestant leaders. John Jewel, an Anglican bishop, and John Batley, an Archdeacon of Canterbury, both owned works containing excerpts from Catherine's writings. This suggests that her spiritual insights and mystical experiences continue to resonate with Protestant thinkers, even as they distanced themselves from Catholic doctrine. In the end, John Foxe's Acts and Monuments serves as a powerful testament to the complex and nuanced nature of religious change in England. It shows how the past was reinterpreted to justify the present, and how figures like Catherine of Siena and Bridget of Sweden, once central to Catholic devotion, were repurposed to support the Protestant cause. Their stories, as told by Foxe, demonstrate the enduring legacy of these saints and the enduring tension between Catholic and Protestant traditions in English religious life.